Our next speaker is Dave Evans. Now, he's the VP of Social Strategy at Lithium, based in Austin, Texas. He's in social technology, consulting and development around the world, and also the author of the best-selling Social Media Marketing, An Hour a Day, and Social Media Marketing, The Next Generation of Business Engagement. He's a regular columnist at the ClickZ and a frequent keynote speaker. And excitingly, today during the first coffee break, he will be giving away 2 complimentary copies of his book. First come, first serve basis, but again, it is only during the coffee break that he will do so. So here today, speaking on the subject of creating loyal customers and brand advocates through social media, please welcome Dave Evans.
Thank you. Thank you. What I want to talk about today and pick up on are some of the things that Jamie and Rasul went through. The use of data, customer engagement, things like this, and talk about how social technology features into this. First off, a couple of things that we know. Clearly, this is an important trend. It's something that we want to pay attention to. It's something that affects all of our businesses. But from a platform perspective, what we're really talking about is everything from publishing, from understanding what customers are thinking about or what business prospects are thinking about, before they purchase, into listening, broad market trends, things like that, wrapping some of this stuff together, the actual engagement with specific customers. When somebody posts on Twitter or Facebook and says, my flight is late, or I have a question about my bank, is the branch open, the ATM machine isn't working, whatever it happens to be, how do you as a brand actually engage with them? Is it through agents? Is it by tapping into, for example, the knowledge that exists in a larger community, a support forum, something like that, where the answer to that question may already exist? Do agents have access to that? Do other customers have access to that? Subject matter experts inside the organization. When a bag is lost on an airplane, rather than a customer service agent taking time to find it, why not just send the request to the baggage team who already knows where the bag is, let them communicate with the agent? And then integration to CRM. Rasul made this point of the golden customer record. When you're talking with a customer, when an agent is talking with a customer, do they actually know who they're talking to? Or are they asking a bunch of questions that sort of signals to the customer, I guess you've been with us for a while, but we really don't know who you are yet, but we'll figure it out during this call. Do they know that immediately? And then finally, to Rasul's point about analytics, it is absolutely the driver for most business decisions and should be in most organizations. So what does all this have to do with customer loyalty? If you begin a few years back with the classic purchase funnel, awareness, consideration, and purchase, and you think about the role that social media plays from just an information perspective in particularly the consideration phase of this. As soon as we hear about something, the first place most of us go is either the web or the person sitting next to us, and half the time it's the person sitting next to us through an instant messenger, right? And we look for ratings, reviews, we ask questions, things like that, we see what other people's experience is, then we choose to purchase. We know how much this costs us, we know what our cost of lead is, we know what the lead generation process is, and so on. And we can sort of calculate what does it take to get somebody to this point. What I want to talk about is what happens next, right? So once I have this customer, I want to begin bonding with the customer and demonstrate to this customer that I know who you are. Right? That I care about you, that we have things in common, that we're bringing value, all of those things that we try to do. And of course, social is part of this. Trust is part of this as well. You can look at this, I'm not going to read through the slides as we go through, but basically, people with an agenda are trusted sort of out of the gate, are trusted less than people without an agenda. At the same time, if you look at the use of social, you'll see the people with an agenda are actually rising in trust, which is really interesting. But to me, it's simply an indication that brands are learning how to use these channels to work with customers, to bring the information that they know. I referenced the subject matter experts and things like that. Bring the information that they have to the decision-making process in sort of a trusted way rather than a sales way. Right? But this quote right here from Esther Dyson, I actually really like. This idea, when somebody posts, I'm standing in line at Starbucks, why do they do this, right? Why do they do this? So maybe it's, okay, so Starbucks is cool or whatever, and I want to let people know that I'm doing something. I don't think that's really it. I think we're treated like mass consumers in so many ways, right? I am instantly characterized, slotted according to demographics, visible or otherwise, and then that's how I'm treated, right? But I don't think of myself that way. Right? On the one hand, we're all individuals. On the other hand, we all wear jeans because we're individuals, right? So there's sort of both sides of this. But what she's really saying here is when we trade off information that potentially has privacy implications and so on, what we really crave is to be related to as an individual, right? So if someone can understand me at an individual basis, I'm willing to give up a lot for that. At the same time, we have brands that are starting to use these things to put campaigns together and to reach across different sections of the marketing funnel. So when I think of awareness, I think of engagement, I think of customer care. All of these are components of contemporary marketing. So here, this happens to be a healthcare brand in the U.S. The portions of the campaign include awareness, right, informing people on the process of enrollment into the healthcare plan, engaging, letting customers connect with each other and ask questions of each other. How do you use this particular plan? What were your benefits like? What was your experience like? And then finally, anchoring all of this stuff in customer service, because one of the things that we know is things go wrong, and when they go wrong, then what do we actually do? On airlines, I talked about this whole idea of posting on Twitter. Somebody has a problem, they post on Twitter, and it's very important, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, this 8-minute response time, right? When I ask a question on the social web, I usually need something fairly quickly, so it's important that you actually be able to get back to me very quickly, right? This becomes important because as we respond quickly, we have the opportunity to take a negative situation, which very often there's some negative component, something has happened or something is broken or whatever, and you see that in the first post on the social web, and you see this big negative blob down here. You're looking at positive, negative sentiment of the initial post, right? So when somebody reaches out on Twitter and says, hey, I'm having this problem, there's this negative component. As the conversation proceeds, you see the negative sort of goes away and the conversation starts to shift higher. So first off, with quick response, timely response, effective response, you have the opportunity to take a negative situation and turn it neutral or positive. But even more so, with fast response time, you have a higher likelihood of actually turning the conversation positive. So as you're thinking through how to create experiences that create loyal customers with social technology in particular, be thinking about how your teams, how your agents, how your call center and so on, how they're actually set up to respond when people use these channels, and they do use these channels to reach out and talk to you. The result of this is my flights for the last couple of years, all on United Airlines, as a result of a series of very positive experiences, right? And so customers really do start to understand this, and they really do translate this into loyal behavior, which is what we're really after. So how do we put this together, right? How do we actually do this? First thing is to understand what happens, right? Somebody posts on Twitter, the conversation arrives in front of an agent. As soon as the conversation arrives in front of an agent, the agent needs to go to work on it. It's important that high priority conversations be presented first, that the agent know what to do, that the agent know how to go after this, rather than simply looking through this mass of the social web, right? As soon as the agent claims the post, the very first thing that we want to do is we want to connect CRM so that as the agent is looking at this question, the agent knows who this customer is and can start to respond in a way that signals very quickly to the customer, we know who you are, we understand the problem, and so on. We want to connect in real time to the customer community, right, to the support forums and things like that. Because if the question has already been answered, I have two opportunities. One of them is to share that answer with the agent so that the agent also has the answer, right? Very often in customer communities, there's more detailed information than what exists in agent training and things like that, which is fairly generic. The other thing is, if the agent can introduce the customer to other customers like herself, that customer can start to build relationships with those other customers around the brand, right? And understand, here's someone else who's like me, they had the same situation, it got resolved, this seems like a pretty good deal, I'm actually going to invest and take the next step here. From there, you post it back out onto the social web, you can follow up with surveys, you can follow up with marketing information, and then what's really cool is you can use this information in your marketing campaigns. How do you use customer care in marketing campaigns? If you know that customers are having issues with things, if you know that they're interested in certain applications, alongside your paid, your awareness and outreach campaigns, you can build organic campaigns that pick up on the things that customers are already talking about. So you know that this is going to be engaging, and you use that to build additional campaigns. If you step back 10 years ago, what a digital strategist would have told you was, here's your engagement play, here's your website, and here's traditional media, awareness, and so on, along with digital media. So we've got this engagement component in the middle, but what's really happening? All of these engagement channels are actually advertising channels. They're not engagement channels. Engagement certainly happens on Facebook, Twitter, and so on, but the engagement happens between me and my friends, not between me and brands. Only a couple % of the people who like you will ever come back to your Facebook business page. They'll come back to your page to ask a question, they'll post on Twitter and so on, but it leaves this big gap in engagement. So if you instead look at the role of ratings and reviews, customer communities, outreach from social agents, connectivity from social agents, and so on, and recognize that what you can do is use all of these as the powerful advertising channels that they are, and then when somebody mentions you on one of these, pull them back to the community, pull them back to your social agents, and so on. Now you can engage and start to build an advocacy strategy. What happens when you do this? First off, if you've invested in a support community, a customer support community, something like that, it's going to grow at a certain rate, right? It's going to grow as people discover it, as they search for the problem on Google and so on, and the community is going to grow. At the same time, there are people that are asking your agents these same questions. If we can connect those together, guess what? The community grows faster, right? So you can actually start to build that original map that I showed with all the different components. As you pull more of these things together, they actually begin to work better together. Tap your subject matter experts. Teach them how to blog. How do you teach somebody how to blog? Start with having them respond to agents relatively simple questions, right? Give them little pieces of work to do. They'll start to learn how to participate in the social web, and pretty soon they'll realize, I actually know the answers to a lot of questions. I could write a little white paper about that. That content goes into your digital marketing strategy. On entertainment itself, look at your customers, look at what they're doing. This is Sky in Europe. One of these that we noticed in their customer community was there were a whole bunch of questions about David Beckham, right? A whole bunch of questions about celebrities. So rather than saying, this is a support community, please don't have those conversations here, have them someplace else. This exists for technical questions and so on, so that we can address customers and so on. What Sky did was they invested in an additional community where customers just get together and talk about their interests on different shows, on different sporting events, and so on. It's become one of the most popular sections of their community, right? All of this acts to start to bond customers further and further to the brand. It's not just for customer care either. This is an example of what we call social lead generation, of listening to the conversations that are happening in discussion, in support forums and other technical discussions, and looking for opportunities. So here you have Hewlett-Packard's enterprise systems. Somebody's asking a question about a server. HP sees this in the community and engages not with a salesperson to say, here's a special offer, but rather with an article about how to do what the person is asking about. The result of that is, not only does this technical community vote the HP solution the best answer to the question, which is really important, right? HP's team has actually tagged the article with web tracking so that when somebody clicks and looks and requests additional information, they actually know on the back end where this lead came from, right? So this idea that you can't measure social and so on, you can totally measure this, but you have to decide to do it. So we've got customer care, we have subject matter experts learning to blog and build digital content, we have social lead generation. All of this stuff is coming out of your unified digital experience platform. So again, here's what that platform looks like. You have your listening and publishing components integrated together. You have customer care and engagement. You have the role of subject matter experts. You've got all of this stuff tied together behind CRM so that you know who you're talking to, you understand what's going on. And then all of this powers and exports to your internal reporting systems, whether you're using Microsoft BI or Domo or whatever, all of your analytics, shareable dashboards, so that you can show other people in the organization what customers are talking about. This last one that I want to show on analytics, what this is all about is recognizing that within an organization, very often social is viewed as, what is it that they're doing over there? What are they actually working on? We're not sure. If you consider not just the individual dashboards that go to people who need to see reporting and so on what's going on for customer engagement, but rather the larger organization, hang this monitor wall in the break room, in the lunchroom, in the foyer to the building. If you have retail offices, put them there. United Airlines has these hanging in their network operations center. What it does is it shows the rest of the organization what's actually happening on the social web, and there's two benefits of that. First off, they start to understand what the social customer care team is doing, or what the social marketing team is doing, which is useful. But the second thing is, as people walk in and they see these questions from customers, they start to realize what customers are having difficulty with, or what customers really like, and they realize, as a product designer, I didn't know our customers were stumbling over that issue. And as a product designer, or as a product manager, or as head of HR, or as part of our legal team where policies on customer engagement are dictated, I can actually help answer that question. How do I get involved in this? How do I get involved in this? How do I contribute to this? And you start to pull other subject matters, thought leaders, and so on from your organization into service with the customer care team. So if we put all this stuff together, number one, an integrated platform that combines things like publishing and listening and engagement, community, and so on. It does not have to all be the same software, right? We're not saying at all, and I don't think it's the best practice, to have one vendor try to provide all of this. Rather, what you're looking for is the APIs, the hooks, the ability to play together so that you can choose best-of-class solutions that make business sense for you, and put together something that says, at the end of the day, how do we reach people, make them aware, understand what they engaged with? When they ask us questions, how do we get back in a timely way? When we're talking to them, how do we know who they are, right? Be able to answer questions like that. Second, be able to share this information across your organization so that everybody else can join into it. And then finally, put all this stuff together in a way that takes you from the purchase funnel into this more evolved concept of building loyal customers around just a series of great experiences and so on, and actually turning them into brand advocates. With that, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'll open up for questions and answers. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 3 minutes. If we can have your hands, if you have a question, and just give us your name, your company, and your question. And of course, shortly, we're going to be going on to the panel discussion. So, any questions for our speaker on social media? Of course, there's always the networking break as well, in which you can correspond with our speakers. Well, it looks to me as if, Dave, you've done either a fabulous job or you've left them completely tongue-tied. One of two. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Dave Evans.